with where they are. I don't really want to put a grade on it yet, but there's still, like I said, there's still a lot of games to go. But they've been very, very productive in terms of what we've asked them to do so far, and have played multiple positions. So that is certainly a plus.
By our count, Darren, we see that they need 2 tackles this week just to make it through the game. That means that they're going to take from you in terms of one of your, I'm assuming, running backs, Bolden or
Perry or
Sonoris.
Yeah.
So how many jobs?
For all 4 teams. And so as far as the actives go, I've said this before, it's like contingency plan. That's what a special teams coach does. So depending on who the actives end up being, we're going to have a plan in place for all. We'll have those discussions. We kind of have ongoing discussions, and we'll kind of have a final discussion at the end of the week and see what is the best scenario for us. But I got to have a plan if anybody goes down, and tackle, running back, safety, corner, whoever it is, we got to kind of have a contingency for all those. So we do. We'll have a plan in place and kind of see where we're at. But all those guys have been 4 core guys. The last few games when Balaj, Perry, and Bolden have been up, those guys have all been 4 core guys. Last week. So. Perry and Sonoris have obviously got a little bit more time so far this year in Balaj because he was inactive a couple games, but they've all been integral parts of what we're doing for sure.
With how many 4 core guys do you have? And is it now a body type, or is it?
You get to this point of the season, you kind of have your ideal guy in the beginning of the season, but as we all know, when injuries happen, you may not go to ideal. You go to the next man up, and it is what it is. You think through the offensive guys right now. The 3 running backs are 4 core guys. Carew has been, since he's been active with injuries and whatnot, he's been a guy that's been a 4 core guy defensively. You look, obviously, Mike Hull is a guy that's, that he only came back last week, but he's a 4 core guy for us. In the secondary, obviously, Walt Aikens is a guy. Cornell Armstrong has been a 4 core guy. It depends on the game plan, things like that. But he has been as well. So that's kind of where those guys are the guys. Stephon Anthony is a guy when Spate has been active. If he's active, ends up being active this week, he's a guy as a potential 4 core guy. So you got about 7 or 8 guys that are kind of your group there.
They seem to be getting smaller. Is that just because of the changes of the?
Yeah, like in the beginning of the season, with the way our makeup of our roster was, we had a few more starters playing on a couple teams, and so that kind of knocks down a couple of the core guys, if you will. I'm echoing through the room now. That kind of knocks down a couple of the core guys. So it depends on, where we are in this right now with the roster. We've kind of upped our core players and maybe taken a little bit off of some of the guys where you may have a starter or 2 playing 1 or 2 teams. The more core players you have at the game, the less those guys. So it's kind of a formula every week, and it's never the same. It's never the same. That's the challenge for me. It's never the same. And certainly not going to be the same in Game 10 as it was in Game 1. That's for sure. That's all across the league. So we kind of work that formula every week.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned last week about you went over something before the game and then it happened in the game. And from what I understand, based on what Bo was saying, you were yelling at him to get on the line or get off. I can't remember which one it was. Get on the line, get off the line. And so was the ref. How often does that happen? Where refs are calling out.
Refresh my memory.
Talking about Houston.
Remember the Houston game with Tankersley?
Yes.
When he was behind the 40-yard line? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the way that the officials, when the new rules went into place, the officials changed their dynamics and their alignments. So now they're kind of watching that setup zone, they call it. So that 15-yard area. So this is the front, this is the back. They have one official watching the front line. They have another official watching the back. So that back guy that's on the 40, he's trying to help the guys out initially. So when you're just getting set up, he kind of gives you the friendly reminder like, hey, you guys, what happened with Tankersley was he started up and backed up. So when the guy walked in to say, hey, watch the 40-yard line, and then the official backed out, and then Tankersley backed up, he tried to yell to him real quick. I saw it as well. I came running up, tried to yell to him real quick. He just lost where he was on the field with his feet. And so that's what happens. To answer the second part of your question, there's certain things, I'll speak special teams-wise, there's certain things in the game that are unique to special teams that the officials will remind you. I'll give you an example. Field goal. They make that big push now about covering the long snapper. Usually the guy's in charge of that. Not every official, but usually the guy will walk up and give you a gentle reminder either in the beginning of the game. Some guys do it every down. Hey, guys, remember now you can't cover the center. Because, the officials don't want to call those. They really don't. They don't want to call the ticky-tack stuff. It's not good for them. It's not good for anybody. So a lot of times they'll give you a heads up on things like that. That's just one example. that 40-yard marker, that 8 guys in a setup zone is another one. We'll just say, hey, guys, now you guys know you got to be in here, and they'll give you a gentle reminder. The new kickoff line rule with everybody up on the 34-yard line now with only a yard. Usually when the guy's handing the kicker the ball, if you see him talking to the guys, that's usually what he's saying. Hey, guys, remember now, everybody's going to be on the 30. Because those are things they don't want to call. And when you talk to the officials, they don't like calling those ticky-tack things. But in our situation, if you're over the line, you got to throw the flag, and that's kind of what happened in that one.
A couple weeks ago, we talked about your manual for NFL stadiums, how to kick in those certain stadiums. What does it say about Lambeau Field?
Yeah, you know what? Lambeau Field's an interesting field. Obviously, the beginning of the season, middle of the season, end of the season are going to be different times of year. You're certainly looking at the weather is always a factor there. What's the wind like? There's a little bit of a crosswind there. It's obviously a natural grass field. All those things will, play into effect, play into the stats. So it's one of those stadiums, a lot like most northern stadiums, where it's playing totally different beginning of the year as the middle of the year. I would consider this middle of the year right now, as opposed to the end of the year. Middle of the year, it depends on what kind of day you get, the wind, all that kind of stuff. So obviously we'll get out there and kind of test it out. And they haven't played on the field in a couple weeks, so you're thinking the field conditions will be decent. We'll see what the precipitation's like, rain before the game or snow or whatever. Obviously the wind, the weather, all those things will play into it. But it's been an interesting field. I mean, they've had a very consistent kicker there, for a long time, so that kind of plays into the stats as well. I look more at the opposing kicker, so when I'm looking at Lambeau Field and how it plays in the middle of the season, I'm looking at opposing kickers. I'm usually not looking at the Packers kicker. Mason Crosby's obviously been there a long, long time, so you're kind of seeing how other teams have come in and how they've done and how it's kind of played out like that. So it's a middle of the road. Overall, it's kind of a middle of the road. It's not drastically good or drastically bad. It's kind of a middle of the road type of deal.
You're also looking at punters, like how many opposing punters punt inside the 20.
Absolutely. So we're looking at the same type of things. And then, on game day, you can never predict what exactly it's going to be, but you're kind of looking at a history of the stadium, how other punters have done as well, what their success has been. But obviously, when you get there on game day, that could totally, sometimes you can throw that out because if you have a crazy day. So if we get some snow or rain or wind or whatever, that certainly will play into it. But certainly we got to do a great job with the football and all those things. And we'll see what it's like when we get out there on Sunday.
Second time, I guess, this year that one of your guys got a AFC Special Teams Player of the Week award. Did they get an extra sticker on your board, when they win something like that?
Well, he got our belt this week, so we give out. You guys know we give out the Special Teams belt, so it's hard not to give the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week the belt. That's what I said, joke around, but hey, listen, very proud of Matt. I'm very proud of Jakeem. And listen, I think individual awards are great. No different than I said when Jakeem won his. He was. The other 10 guys that helped him in his situation were great. Matt Hawk, same thing. Our gunners did a great job last week. Our protection was very good. John Denny was very good. Solid game by everybody around him. It usually takes some help to get one of those awards, but great job by Matt Hawk. Obviously with the field position last week, really played a major, part of our game. I think the Jets' average starting point was the 18-yard line for the entire game, and not only after punts, but kickoffs as well. So the field position thing was huge last week. So that's something we constantly talk about. 7 punts inside the 20 for him, and I think all 9 punts inside the 25, if I'm not mistaken. So really, just a really great job by him and our coverage. And, one of the things we talked about last week going in is Andre Roberts had been, if he's not still the top punt returner statistically in the AFC, so, limiting his opportunities. And then when he does get some, returns, having great coverage and rallying to the ball, great pursuit, great angles. And we did a great job in both, not only the punting part of it, but the coverage part of it as well. So certainly proud of Matt and kind of what he's done.
Thanks, Darren.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, Darren.
Seems hard to be in your job this week.
Yeah.
Facing the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. You brought it up. That just
Sure, let's start there.
You have to do it instead of me.
Yeah, it's a fun challenge for us. Obviously, one of the great players in the league, great quarterbacks in the league. It's gonna be a challenge. It'll be fun.
How do you explain what your vision was for Minkah Fitzpatrick, and then what the execution was last week?
Yeah, obviously with Minkah, we're excited about him as a player and talent and what he brings to the table. So, we're just trying to find different ways to get him on the field in different spots and utilize his skill set. Every time we've done that and put him in a spot to perform, he's performed well. So that was the vision. Just try to keep finding ways to get him some different playing time and utilize. Again, we think one of the reasons, even going back to the draft and why we brought Minkah in was, his versatility in terms of what he brings to the table from that sort of point of view. So we're just trying to find ways to utilize those different skills that he has.
You were really good corner back then. I know you guys made that move in August, but when you drafted him, you were thinking, hey, if things went wrong, we could play this guy at corner?
You have all those sorts of scenarios. I don't think we rule anything out with Minkah. Again, just every time we ask him to do something, he kind of shows that he can do it. Obviously earlier in his college career, he had some of that experience on the outside part of the field. So kind of all bets are open with him. And again, the more we keep giving him, the more he keeps responding. So again, play to play, game to game, series to series, we're just trying to find different ways to utilize him in the best way possible and find a chance to get him in a matchup that we like, or in a spot that we like, or in a call that we like, or whatever it is. So I wouldn't say those were in the draft, hey, this is a guy that's going to have this, play corner for us or be this for us. But that was obviously probably one of the biggest things in terms of going through that process with Minkah, of saying this guy's real versatile and has a lot of different abilities that we can try to take advantage of. And again, I feel like we've all talked in here before about just the way the league's going and the passing game's going, and the type of athletes you need in the field and those sort of things, that's a valuable weapon for us to have.
Matt, I guess I'll ask the question.
Sure, man.
Your relationship with Rashad Jones is what, and did you need to rehabilitate that relationship this week?
No, I don't think so. I think, again, I feel, I know Adam's been in here a bunch and probably spent too much time going through all this. We've had a lot of conversations. The whole defense, myself, Rashad, myself, Adam, myself, I think we're all on the same page. Again, we have a big challenge ahead of us this week, so we're really trying to move forward, and that's been addressed with the team, with Adam, with myself, with the defense, and I think everyone's on the same page moving forward, and we're going to go try to win a ball game in Green Bay on Sunday.
What wasn't on the same page?
Excuse me?
Everyone's saying that y'all are on the same page now. So the question is, what wasn't on the same page?
Obviously, there was some sort of disconnect. I can't really get into the details or specifics of how that came about. Again, I think anytime anything happens, I think the important thing for us is, again, trying to move forward as a team. We're in the middle of, this is hard. We're in the middle of a tough stretch of games we need to win. And, there's been a lot of conversations, again, at all levels, the last 4 days or whatever it's been. And again, I think the important thing for us is it's been a very transparent process. I think I'm on all sides and where we're at, and again, I think we're just trying to put it behind us and move forward.
Are you comfortable with the answer you got from Rashad as to why he took himself out of the game?
I'm comfortable with everything. I'm comfortable with where we're at right now. I'm comfortable standing in front of you guys saying we've gone through a process as an organization to address anything that we felt we needed to address, and we feel like it's been addressed. And like I said, I got a lot of stuff to get ready for on Sunday, so that's where I've wasted too much energy on a lot of stuff already. So my energy is going to be on getting ready for Green Bay.
What went into the strategy and the decision to implement a secondary rotation?
Again, I think we talked about after the Houston game. Obviously, we weren't playing at the level that we wanted to be playing at and competing at. And, Adam and I spent a lot of time together that weekend going through a lot of things. So as a coaching staff, we just felt those were, they were just different opportunities. But again, I don't want to say it's a burden. We have a lot of good players back there. We have a lot of, we feel like, good players that we want to get in the field in different spots. And we felt it wasn't, obviously working to just stick with one thing and do, whatever we were doing those 2 weeks prior, So as an organization, as a coaching staff, we said, hey, this is one thing that may help some of the things. Again, we made a lot of other changes that obviously maybe weren't as obvious from some schematic stuff and some little things that we were tweaking and working with. So, that was part of that process that we went through the sort of half-off week and through things that we addressed and said this is something that we're going to try to use to get some players in the field and do some different things moving forward to not play like we played in the Detroit and Houston games.
Rashad has been a leader on this team, at least that's our perception. Does his standing on this team change coming out of this?
I think I think he's, again, it's been addressed with the defense. Again, we try to be as transparent and honest as possible. And I know he's had conversations with his teammates and how he's going to move forward with things. So I don't see any issue with that.
Now, would the preference be to be able to determine at some point in the next few weeks which of the many roles you have Minkah doing now is best for him, or would you perfectly happy and think it's good to move forward with using him in many different spots as you did last week?
Yeah, I think it's anything, every week there's different challenges, there's different players you're trying to combat, there's different schemes you're trying to deal with, so I don't know that every week we would look at something and say, hey, it's good to move him around so much this week, or you know what I mean? I think that's just something we come into as we game plan for a week, not just with him, with all our players. Hey, this week, this is what we're facing. These are the issues, the players, the scheme that we're trying to attack. Okay, how can we line these guys up in the best form possible to win a ball game this week? So, again, an advantage of having a player like Minkah is that he's able to do that and slide between positions. And look, again, I know this is all getting brushed on the rug, but there were a lot of other players, on Sunday that played multiple positions and that moved around and like that. Bobby played inside and outside, and we had a rookie corner get work for the first time all year. We had 2 D tackles that first time that we signed on whatever day, Tuesday or Wednesday, that played for us, played a lot of snaps for us, and so like there were a lot of guys that did those type of things as well. I know Minkah obviously, first round draft pick gets the spotlight, but there were a lot of guys that moved some spots and did some different things, and new players that stepped up for us on Sunday also. So that's kind of where we're at. Every week we're going to try to find, hey, these are the guys that are available to us this week, and where can we line those guys up to best try to win a ball game.
Matt, do you feel like as a defense, your best ball is still ahead of you?
Yeah, I hope so. Hope is not a strategy, but you hope the trend from last week is more where we're heading than the weeks prior. Again, listen, if we execute the way we executed against Houston, then no, it won't look like it looked last week. If we execute and perform the way we performed last week, then we'll have a chance to hopefully put a decent showing together. So, but yeah, you'd like to think. It's whatever the quote is. Once you think you got to figure it out, you're screwed. So we're not approaching this week any different. The first thing I told the guys, on Wednesday when we came in was, last week we came in on Wednesday and, obviously coming off the 2 bad games and said, hey, look, all I know is we got to go back to work. Here's some things we're going to do. Here's some solutions. Here's what we're trying to do. And we just went back to work. We went back to fundamentals, back to technique work, and got back to kind of our roots, and I think some of that showed on Sunday. So when I came back in yesterday, it was the same thing. Hey, we can't, just because now we think, oh, hey, we're coming off a great win, we got to go back and do. The reason we got to Sunday was because of what we did Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and going into that. And so we had to take the same approach yesterday, the same approach today, and hopefully that gives us the best chance to have a similar showing on Sunday.
You gave us a chuckle last week when you said...
I chuckle a lot with you guys, I think.
At some point, you just have to learn some bleep.
Yeah, I'm trying not to cuss as much anymore. Sydney's not here, so she's not.
Did they learn some bleep over the last week, do you think? Or was that a factor in it?
I think it comes down to execution. Again, my perspective, I think the terms hey, something's broken, we fixed it, I think that's the wrong lens to look things through, you know what I mean? Like I said, I think as a defense, we focused better, we executed better, and the results showed. We had not many mental errors, we had not many missed tackles. We didn't have some of those things. We had no pre-snap penalties, no post-snap penalties. We had the back-to-back face masks. They're kind of a couple freaky deals there. But, so some of those things, the error in our game, we were kind of cut out. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that's learning some shit or if that's just, hey, and again, we tried to, as a staff, our job is to say, okay, what do we think these guys can do? What do we think we can put on these guys' plate? How much? What schemes, again, physically are we asking these guys to do that they can or can't? And, maybe we found some things that we feel those guys can execute better. And we're going to keep working to do that every week and find answers to put those guys in a position to make some plays.
No, we all have ego, we all have pride, we all have emotion. We're human beings, coaches, players, journalists. What have you found to be the way you try to approach not just drawing up good ball plays, but managing personalities, emotions, all that stuff?
Yeah, again, honestly, I don't know how you guys feel about me, so we don't have to get into that part of it, but I try to be as transparent as possible with you. Like, I'm consider myself a pretty honest person, pretty genuine, and that's how I try to approach things with the players. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I'm 15 years in the league for me. You know, I think guys, to me, I've always found guys just want to know you care about them, like know you're invested in what's important to them, know you're invested in the team. I try to make that clear with my actions and my words, and you know, I try to spend time with almost everybody on the defense. Like, you know, it was hard, you know, coming from a linebacker job, and you're obviously focused on a smaller group, and I'm conscious of trying to make sure I get around all the groups and spend time with everybody and make sure, you know, I'm trying to have conversations with everybody about what I think is in their best interests. And I think at the end of the day, again, we're all on the same page. We all want to win ball games. Everybody does. You guys probably do too. I mean, it's probably easier to cover a team that's winning ball games, you know. So at the end of the day, like, if they think, you know, your interests are trying to help them be a good player and be the best player they can be and help win ball games and all the focus is on that, then you know, those egos tend to kind of move to the side pretty quickly if everyone's focus and attention is on, hey, let's get better and let's go win. So that's where I approach things from.
How has this week, I guess, been for you emotionally? You know, really good week.
Last
week, this Rashad Jones thing seemed to
Yeah.
center stage.
I mean, you guys know I don't read anything you guys write, so that's no offense. Yeah, well, it's just I don't have the energy. I'm spending too much energy doing other stuff. So, again, like, honestly, to be honest with you guys, like, the thing I was most disappointed about with all of it was that it took the focus off a great effort by all those guys that played. I mean, that was a great. I mean, just from an effort, like I said, just energy standpoint, like, it was. I mean, because it was. I'll tell Adam this, right? I mean, like, every possession was critical. I mean, it was a tight game the whole way, right? It felt like every possession that we were out there was critical. It was a 3-point game, a 3-point game. Like, we're going back out there, like, and just the energy and the emotion and those guys. It was cool, man. It was really, especially coming off of obviously like disappointing performance the week before. You know, so just the emotional part for me was like, I felt bad that it took away from, you know, the highlight of some of those guys that what we accomplished on Sunday. You know, but again, that's, you know, 24-hour rule. That's the next day, and then we got to move on. I mean, this is not an easy offense we're about to go face. You know, so I don't have the time to be emotional about worrying about all this other stuff. I mean, we have conversations we have to have conversations about, but I moved on. I mean, we've moved on. Monday afternoon, I'm looking at Green Bay, getting ready to figure out how we're gonna contain this offense. So. You know, it's an emotional game, and there's emotions involved in everything we do. But in a sense, my job's easy because I have to focus on putting a plan together to go beat the Packers. So, kind of that's where I put my energy into trying to win this next ball game.
So you're saying
More guys.
Oh,
true or false? Last
oh
week,
man, here we go.
yeah. Last week, all the players in your secondary knew that there was going to be a rotation system on game day.
I'm not going to get into details of how everything went about. I think things were clear in terms of what our approach was going to be on Sunday.
So true.
That's my answer.
So why would Rashad be upset about it if he knows? I guess that's what's confusing to us.
Yeah, I can't answer, you know, questions for Rashad or for anybody else. I can tell you, again, we've addressed what happened. You know, I've had multiple conversations with Adam and everybody else in the building about it, and like I said, I think we've settled what we think. We've come to a point as an organization, as a team, that we're settled where we're at. And again, like I said, we're trying to put that behind us and move forward on to the next game.
If you choose to do what you were going to do last week, which is not play Rashad on certain snaps, are you fully confident he will accept that and go back in the game Sunday when called upon?
Yes.
All right. Thanks, guys. That was next.
Thanks, fellas. Yep.